So I'm going to talk a little bit about the economy of the Northeast and move from employment to productivity, and then from productivity to what the labour market looks like, but what the labour market looks like from an employer's or a business's perspective, which is often something that's disregarded, and we often talk about what the labour market looks like from the employees or the individual's perspective. I just want to take a little bit of time to look at that slightly differently. So it's worth looking at gross value added. That's really the worth in monetary terms, and money isn't everything, but it buys a certain amount of happiness. And this is about growth in our economy over the 11 years that we've got the data from the turn of the millennium. And the NELEP's in blue, and you can see the rest of the English economy, excluding London and the southeast, in red, and the UK economy in green, which then of course brings that wealthy thing to the north of us called Scotland in, as well as London. So that says to me that in terms of rate of growing our economy, we're okay. We're doing better than the rest of England, excluding London and the southeast. And let's face it, London and the southeast is not actually comparable to virtually any other part of the UK. So we're doing better in terms of being able to grow our economy than the likes of Manchester and Bristol. This is employment. So you can see very peaky. And in some respects, if we look around that sort of 2008 sort of mark and go back to what happened in 2008 to GVA, there's some evidence there that we were more vulnerable to that shock, more vulnerable to that catastrophic decline in output and productivity, and that what was looking extremely good in terms of employment growth actually ended up with us being comparable to all other parts of the UK. How does that translate, though, into, if money is a measure of happiness, it's only one, of course, but it's a measure of something, what does that translate into how much money individuals in this area have got to spend, and how much money they are putting into the economy? So, again, NELEPS is blue, and here this is adding on to that rate of growth line. This is adding in some actual numbers in terms of pounds per head. But this is pounds per head per employee. And what this is basically saying is that compared to the rest of the UK, we're not doing very well. We're the thick end of £6,000 off. Compared to the rest of England, excluding London and the southeast, we're kind of comparable, but we're still £900 off. But that's GVA per employee. That's kind of saying that for the people who are in work, they're averagely well off. This is for the people of our population. So working age population. And this is telling a really important story. This is saying that whilst GVA per head, so productivity per person in work, is good, it could be better, but it's good, it's not catastrophically bad. This is saying that when you look at this per head of population, we have a problem. We have a significant problem in some parts of the Northeast. So the first few columns break up the Northeast a little bit into Durham, Northumberland, the two counties. And then we add in Sunderland and then Tyneside. And you can see that in pounds per head, we're £9,000 in some parts of the region worse off than where we ought to be. And that England and the UK is kind of comparable. So this is why, and it's quite easy to say, but this is why more jobs is important. And this is also why better jobs are important. Because if the more jobs simply take this number down, our productivity, our attractiveness, what our contribution is, will continue to be off par. And this translated in Adonis into saying, right, 60,000 more jobs would take us to the employment level comparable to the rest of England, excluding London and the South East. But of those 60,000 jobs, 35,000 have to be at graduate level or above. More and better. Where does that actually translate to in terms of types of businesses? Now, it's quite easy to get pejorative about some of this. That would be the wrong thing to do. But this graph tells a story about where productivity is concentrated. Anything above this 45-degree line, anything up here, uses more people to produce less in pure economic terms. It is less productive to be in a sector that's above the blue line than it is to be in a sector below the blue line. Am I taking everybody with me? So, if you want more and better jobs, you have to think about what you're trying to attract. What type of economy you want to build. What type of businesses you want to see created. What type of businesses you want to see grow. And there are lots and lots and lots of arguments for building jobs per se, full stop. And if we go back to that one, no one would say we don't need employment. That is basically telling us we need more jobs, we need more employers. But if we want them to be more and better jobs, then this is telling us something. We move a little bit to that little bit about the labour market and what it looks like for employers. So when we're thinking about which kind of employers we want to see grow, which kind of employers we want to attract, and which kind of employers we want to see start, what kind of market are they facing when they're looking for people? Because ultimately, no business thrives without the right people. This is telling us, and in this instance, the red, amber, green are only there to give an indication, but there is a scale there. If you're at the top of that list, labour is harder to find. So this is me trying to turn the labour market a little bit around and turn the debate slightly in favour of how the employer views the labour market rather than how the employee faces it. If you're at the top of this list, you're getting fewer people for every vacancy that you post. There are fewer claimants per vacancy, and/or the pool of people out there who are potential claimants, potential applicants for your jobs is smaller. So what we've done here is just weight these two things. So it's not a straightforward ranking here or a straightforward ranking here, but it's basically saying, you want to post a job, how many claimants are there out there right now, people out of work who are looking for that kind of job, skilled to that sort of level, and how many people are there in employment right now doing that kind of work who could become applicants for your job. So this is telling us where actually our skills intervention should be. This is telling us where the labour market is not delivering. It's also telling us where wage inflation is likely to be greatest and where people are likely to be the barrier to growth. So you overlay that, and it should tell you exactly where to put your interventions. Let's end on a high note. This is talking about whether people find the employment that they need as individuals, and whether, of course, the flip side of that equation is whether employers do find the people that they want. So, NELEP statistics on the left-hand side, all the other LEPs on the right. What this shows is in every instance we are either the same as or better than the average of all the other LEPs when it comes to people not being able to fill vacancies, hard to fill vacancies, plenty of establishments that train staff to a recognised qualification level. We're better at doing that than the average. So I don't want to leave on a note that it's doom and gloom. I actually want to leave on a note that it's quite possible to identify what you should do if you look at it from the employer's perspective, that we know where more and better jobs can be found. We've got a challenge, but it's a straightforward challenge. It is more employers, more enterprise, more innovation, more investment, and it can be done. Absolutely nothing can't be done. And some of the things that colleagues will talk to over the next few minutes will tell us very much about what we have done and what we have managed to achieve. But this is a very new organisation, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time because this is a structural problem. Let's go back a couple more. This is an economy, it's typical. This is an economy going through structural change. This is an economy which can grow faster than its comparators because it's going through structural change. The shape and the size of the economy constantly moving, everywhere of course, but here we are going through a massive transformation, and it's decadal long and multi-decadal long. But so long as we focus on this chart and make sure we remain in that position where employees and employers are generally satisfied, we should get there. Thanks very much.